There we go. Welcome back to Dubs Only. Tonight we had a dub. Josh Hall, we had a dub. The Warriors win it 107-97. Now that I think about that, I think I predicted like 102 to 97 or something yesterday.
You were
So
close. You were
we'll
close.
have to run back the tape and hear what it was. But oh my goodness, this game had it all. It was just I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, like nope, literally, and it feels good. The series is tied 2-2, heading back to the Bay. Not bad.
I mean, is it the game we wanted? No. But did we desperately need the win? 100% yes. I mean, I think we were both expecting them to come out and just punch them in the gut and just totally dominate this game. Um, at least that's what I was expecting, and we didn't necessarily get that. But I mean, before we go anywhere, we are witnessing one of the greatest players in NBA history.
And he's not only one of the best of all time, but he's playing at some of the best basketball he ever has. And especially in the finals, he's never scored this many points. It's unbelievable what Stephen Curry can do with a basketball. And man, he carried the Warriors to a win tonight. So before we go into the start of the game and how it happened, Steph balled out tonight at 43 points, 10 rebounds after the Warriors got obliterated on the glass in the last game, which is big. And they needed every single point from him.
I mean, he goes 7 from 14 for three. He goes 50% from three.
After being 2 for 8 in the first half, too. So that means what? He was 5 for 6? 5 for 6 in the second half.
It's just ridiculous.
Awesome.
In every shot, most shots, you could say there is a foul on them. I mean, it's either a push in the back, it's across the arm, and they don't get called. And usually he doesn't complain a lot. You're seeing him complain a little bit more, be a little bit more feisty, animated with the refs, which I like to see.
Yeah. I mean, the only free throws that Steph got tonight outside of the first 2 minutes of the game were when the game was out of reach.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, they called the foul. One of them got challenged and upheld. But there were a couple of times when Steph got clobbered, and it happens every time. I don't think this was the best officiated game, but this game isn't about the refs. It's about what happened at the end. And the free throw discrepancy, the Warriors took 15 in the end, and the Celtics took 19. I want to say that 6 or 7 of those free throws were within the last minute. Steph took at 4 at the end. It felt like everything was kind of going the Celtics' way for a whole lot of it, and Marcus Smart was hitting daggers. But the Warriors weathered the storm. And to start the game off, another slow start from the team, which we've kind of come accustomed to. And they switched up the starting lineup. They put in Otto Porter instead of Kevon Looney. And immediately the Celtics were getting to the paint. The Warriors were down by 7. I don't think that lineup will start in Game 5.
No. Kevon
Looney has
needs
proven
to start.
himself to be a necessary player on the court for as many minutes as you can.
Kevon needs to start. I mean, he had 11 rebounds, 6 points, plus 21 plus minus, a block, a steal. He hustled tonight, and that's what
Plus
they needed.
21.
I mean, it's just the Celtics are an awkward matchup Robert Williams and Al Horford present a real challenge. And I think that's why they went with Otto Porter, because Horford, he spends a lot of time on the perimeter. He's really not in the paint doing dirty work. So I think that's why they maybe thought Otto would be a good fit to come in, and Draymond could, do his floating center role, that strong safety role, if you will. But you need Looney to fight down, because you need to be aggressive on the offense and defensive boards. I mean, that's the key to the Warriors' success.
Yeah, and we saw that towards the end when Wiggins was really active on the offensive glass in the fourth quarter. He had 3 offensive rebounds for the game. I want to say at least 2 of them came in the fourth. He had 16 rebounds in the game. Andrew Wiggins played great.
Most rebounds he had in his career, thanks to the broadcast team.
No way.
For shouting that one out. Most rebounds in his career, 3 offensive, 13 defensive, to go along with 17 points, plus 20 plus minus, 7 for 17 overall. It's the classic Wiggins game in just terms of being just like a solid player who just like who just doesn't seem like he's doing much wrong. He's just playing his role perfectly.
Yeah, and I even thought that the Warriors could have played a lot better for the first 3 quarters, at least for the first 3.5 quarters, for sure. The team was generating great looks on offense pretty consistently throughout the game. They took a lot more 3-pointers than they usually do. They took 43. It's almost Dallas Mavericks level. And they were clanking a whole bunch of them. Clay was cold. Wiggins missed some open ones. Poole missed some open ones in the first half. Steph missed some open ones. Even Draymond Green missed some threes. But team rallied around Steph. Steph won this game. You don't want to say entirely by himself. Obviously, it's a team sport, but he put the team on his back tonight with a sprained foot, mind you. It's just one of those nights where you, as a Warriors fan, can sit back and be like, holy shit, Stephen Curry's unbelievable. He's on our team. We've rooted for him for 13 years since he was drafted. And he's the reason why the series is tied right now, and it's just I don't know, man. I was going to say some like sentimental shit about how we got to appreciate him, and we do, but there's a lot of basketball left to play, and there's you catching my drift, like
yeah, it is so, we have to appreciate his greatness because we're in a sports world where we hate the great players, where we don't appreciate them until it's 20 years down the line. But just think about what we witnessed tonight. 43 points in a must-win game in Boston.
Right.
I mean, I think it was before this game that he had like 90 something points in the finals, and the next closest Warriors scorer had like 50 something. It was Klay Thompson. I mean, he just blew that out of the water. I mean, it's the biggest deficit for a first score and a second score since LeBron in 2016. He is doing things that really a short list of players have done in the NBA Finals, and it's just really fun to watch.
Yeah, but and I think one thing that I take joy in seeing Steph play like this, especially a game like tonight, because we've been hearing the whole, oh well, Steph's playing good, but he's not playing at his best, kind of stuff. What argument can you make after a performance like that? What can you say? Like, if people are trying to argue the Steph doesn't show up in the finals, Steph showed up, to quote Skip Bayless, Steph showed up even smaller than his 6'3" frame. He's a front runner. We've heard a lot of shit about what Steph Curry, like the excuses for why he wins. Durant carried him to the 2 championships. He won with Kyrie and Kevin Love out. Carrying the Warriors to this 2-2 tie in the series. And the Celtics are a really good team. This has been some great basketball. It's definitely the most intense series of the playoffs so far for the Warriors. I was legitimately worried, nervous during this game. The Warriors could go down 3-1. But tonight, Steph Curry showed why he's one of the all-time greats. Like, there's no argument to it. Argue what place he is in the top 12 players of all time. But he's one of the most electric, just fun and entertaining and skilled players we've ever seen. And for a guy of his size, too, to do it in the NBA, where all those other legends are at least 6'6", it's incredible. So Game 5 back in the Bay with the momentum back on the Warriors side as we transition. It's going to be key.
And with all that said, he can't do it alone. We can't have a repeat of this game in Game 5. Like, as great as he was, this is not the type of game you want to see from the Warriors. You want to see them play good, sound basketball and not having to rely on Steph dropping 43. I mean, Klay Thompson, 4 for 10, only 18 points. Wiggins dropped 17. That's what you want from him. Poole getting 14 in. But, I mean, really, there's just not a ton of consistent offensive help. And that hurts. And that really hurts. I'm not asking Jordan Poole to go drop 20, but I need it to be more efficient basketball. I need it to be less shots and more makes, because you're getting the quality looks. Klay is getting quality looks. He probably had 3 or 4 shots that were wide open that Klay Thompson in the 2019 was making.
Right. And I feel bad. I don't feel bad about that going forward. This win's huge. Getting this win, no matter how it happened, it's in the books. Series tied. Now it's a best of 3. It's all started over now. Clean slate. Back home, it is dubs only. We come in here with our Warriors bias. I wouldn't be so shocked to see the Warriors blow them out in Game 5. If all things are clicking, get off to a good start for the first time in eons. Boom. On the brink of a championship.
And the key to that is going to be Draymond. If Draymond brings his A game, then the Warriors will be perfectly fine.
Do you think Draymond can bring his A game?
I think he can. 2 days off, going back home. I think he feels it all. He knows it. He knows he can play better. Steve Kerr wouldn't have taken him out, and we can get into that. And Steve Kerr's ballsiness with some of his substitutions. But I think he knows he can play better. And I mean, it's not the worst Draymond game. I know the media is going to come out and say, all the things that they've been saying, more fouls than points. But I mean, he had 9 rebounds and 8 assists and 4 steals and only 2 turnovers.
Yeah.
Was his plus minus 0? Yeah, but you don't always trust plus minus. That doesn't tell the full story.
The Warriors pulled up a 10-point win with it that should have been a lot closer.
And he played a better game than he did on Wednesday night.
He couldn't play worse.
He couldn't play worse. And I mean, still 1 for 7 isn't great. I feel like there's some opportunities where he's in the lane and maybe he could put up a floater and he's passing the ball and it turns into a dead possession. A couple of those come to mind. But
and especially down in the fourth quarter too. Draymond finished with 5 offensive rebounds. That's huge. And it felt like he got a handful of those in the fourth down the stretch. keeping those possessions alive. He got one on that Steph missed free throw at the end to just really ice the game. So Draymond, his offense is obviously a huge question mark, and it's a big concern because if he's out there, it's another player that the Celtics can help off of and not really feel that they're taking a risk. Rightfully so. He hasn't capitalized at all. He shot 1 for 7 tonight. But at the end of the day, he had a pretty rough first half. He had a rough first couple of minutes in the third too. But those 9 rebounds, those 8 assists, those 4 steals, that's more like the Draymond that we see. He's getting into the box score in ways that he impacts the game in ways you don't see as much in the box score. If he can play better defense on Jaylen Brown like he did at the end of in the clutch, that's a really good sign. So I don't know about a game because you'd like him to at least get to the rim a couple of times or take a floater or two. Getting 8 points. There's a stat with what's the record of the Warriors? The record the Warriors are when Draymond scores double figures. It's funny that a max contract guy like Draymond feels like it's asking a lot for him to score 10 points, but he just has to have his imprint on the game like he did in game 2. If he does, that's a win for the Warriors.
When Draymond scores, no, that's just his total wins. Got a low stat news.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll find that later potentially.
But let's talk about Clay. Clay had a rough shooting night. Ended up 4 for 10 from 3, which doesn't look terrible on paper. But he was missing a whole lot of open looks. Wasn't taking the best shots. What do we need from Clay for the Warriors to close out a win in Game 5?
I think it's just being more more clinical with his shot selection. He needs to be lethal out there. You need to be efficient, taking those high quality looks and playing sound defense and moving with the ball, moving off the ball. It's just doing everything else and letting the game come to him is going to be the key. Don't force it. Let it all come to you. Play the role and trust in your ability. And I don't think he lacks the confidence in his ability.
Not at all.
It's asking him to do so much after 2 years out, not even a half of a season of basketball, and then to come in and play in the NBA Finals and be who he was. That is so much pressure. That is so much. And this isn't the best Klay Thompson. And he knows that, we know that. And I think it's just going to come with time. So if he can just play his role and just be efficient in his minutes and just be a sound basketball player, I think that's all you can ask for. Because then it's on Jordan Poole, it's on Andrew Wiggins, it's on Draymond Green, it's on the cast around him to help with that. If you're moving the ball, setting screens, passing, running, helping on defense, if you're doing all of that, it makes the game easier for Klay. It makes the game easier for Steph, and in return, they get open looks.
Yeah, and that's a great response, because when Klay lets the ball, when Klay lets the game come to him, it's so much easier and so much smoother. When he's coming off of a curl cutter on some floppy action and gets that open catch and shoot 3, that's what you want. You don't want him to put the ball on the ground on the floor as much. And the Celtics defense has done a solid job of forcing that for him. So if he's out there, like at the very end of the game, there was one play when Steph got trapped up in the top, bounced past the Klay, top of the key, knocked down the 3. Big shot. Klay is there and he's ready for those big moments. I'm not worried about him disappearing, but you just want him to be able to consistently knock down those shots. And the Celtics have caught some breaks. Klay and Steph had it going in game 3, but nobody else did. Klay didn't have it going today or in games 1 and 2. If both of them show up for a vintage Splash Brothers show, the Warriors are really hard to beat. I think his defense was also really solid. He had a great stop on Jaylen Brown at the end of the game. True. He's slower. He's not as good at defense, not nearly as good pre-injuries. But I'd still say he's one of the Warriors' only options for that perimeter defensive role. And he's not getting exposed entirely out there, you know? I'm not going to sub Clay out for that sort of stuff.
The Warriors are a good basketball team. Like, there's no question in that. I think it's just it's just shoring up the defense. It's just making it easier on those primary defenders. It's getting them not as isolated, helping out a little bit more, taking away the right hands of Brown and Tatum. It's just too easy for them right now. They got to do a better job at that. Because, I mean, if you're looking at the Celtics box score tonight, I mean, it looks like they should have won this game.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, Tatum goes for 23, 11, and 6. Jaylen Brown puts in 21. Smart puts in 18. Derek White, I mean, oh my God, 16 points, 3 for 5 from 3. I mean,
man, hey, while we're here, Derek White gets superstar calls. Oh my goodness. He's hitting the floor all the time. Look, I don't need to talk about the Celtics players kind of throwing their bodies around. They're a great team. But man, like the superstar calls that went his way. Peyton Pritchard getting away with that travel, which led to the technical foul on Steve Kerr. There's a lot of that tonight. Warriors overcame a whole lot. But you're right. The Celtics played a really solid game. They were getting to their spots. Jaylen Brown had a tough start, but Jaylen Brown's a great player. He's a lot of fun to watch.
He might be the best two-way player in the NBA.
If the Celtics won if the series ended after tonight and the Celtics won today, which is, obviously a big hypothetical, it's not true. I think Jaylen Brown's the Finals MVP. I'd give it to him over Jason Tatum, but it's like the esports media pundits that are like, it's Jason Tatum's team. Jason Tatum is the superstar. Jaylen Brown has been the best player in the series for them.
I had Jaylen Brown as my MVP for the Eastern Conference Finals. That didn't really end up being necessarily true. I mean, Jason Tatum balled out in some of those games.
At the end,
but he is their best defender. I think he's
their best defender.
I think he might be better than Marcus Smart when it comes to guarding 1 through 5. Marcus Smart is one of the best defenders, if not the best defender. I mean,
super active hands,
super crazy.
4 steals tonight for Marcus Smart.
But Jaylen Brown, I mean, he is crazy athletic, crazy long. If he really wanted to dedicate himself to being like an all-around just stud, like Kawhi-esque stud, like two-way, just smooth, go with it, right? It's the potential to me is there for that.
Oh, yeah, there's no denying that the Celtics have a great future ahead of them.
It's funny that everybody was like, Brown and Tatum can't exist. It's time to break up the core. Like, to me, they're the perfect pair. Like, the Celtics have like a perfect young middle-aged core. I mean, because they're going to be your primary ball handlers. You don't need Smart to handle the ball that often. You need that down and dirty center with Robert Williams. I think their bench, has a little bit of room to improve upon. I don't think like Derek White is a permanent answer. I like Pritchard a lot. I think Neesmith, the guy out of Vanderbilt who hasn't got a ton of time in this series, he's a lethal shooter. I mean, he was I think the G League MVP 2 years ago.
Man, the Celtics did too much. Jason Tatum is too much help, man. Yeah, they have the G
Um,
League MVP. Man, call the
uh,
series off. The Celtics are fun, man. I mean, I don't like the game 2 goes wrong, complain about the officiating, and I thought the refs they really had on their side tonight. It's not about that, but it was really frustrating me for a lot of it. Jaylen Brown had that and one on Draymond Green in the third quarter, and I was like, that shouldn't be an and one. But they're a really, really, really solid team. Robert Williams is tough down low. Al Horford's a really smart player who makes the right passes, and he can hit like really well-timed shots, especially from deep. He's a tough cover. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can get a bucket at pretty much any point. Marcus Smart's a great defensive player. It's funny to me because it didn't feel like, they're one piece away from a championship. It's going to be Derek White. But here they are, 2 wins away. And Derek White played a really solid game tonight. So for the Warriors to stop them, we've seen a lot of Draymond on Jaylen Brown and Wiggins on Tatum. And for a lot of tonight, Draymond seemed to not really make much of an impact on defense. But, man, can you see Steve Kerr taking Draymond off of him? Like, if the Warriors are going to make a defensive adjustment, what's it going to be?
I don't think you do. It doesn't feel like the right change to make.
Yeah.
Because because it gives you, depending on the lineup, right? Maybe you go with different defensive matchups. If Gary Payton's and maybe you put him and you let Draymond go on like Marcus Smart or Derek White, maybe even Horford. Who just not one of those. You literally could name anybody, but it's literally just making sure that you stay out of foul trouble.
And it's happened a lot recently.
That's happened a lot, and they did a better job of dealing with the fouls they had. He fouled out of 2 of the first 3 games, so he's 50-50 for the series on fouling out.
I think that one thing that the one adjustment the Warriors have to make is put Looney back in the starting lineup.
100%.
I mean, Otto Porter Jr. is a solid player to have out there at any point. He stretches out the defense a bit with his shooting ability, even though he only took 2 shots tonight, both of them threes, and he missed them. Looney is just a great rebounder, and to counter what Robert Williams can do down there, they need that size. And, the argument against that is, hey, with Draymond and Looney out there, that's 2 guys who don't really make much of an impact on offense. And right, they're not shooters. They're not going to make an impact from outside. But when the Warriors are really passing, we see Looney as a beneficiary getting buckets down low a couple of times every game, and he had one clutch layup with a minute left. Those are big baskets, every bucket counts. So I see Looney starting game 5. I wouldn't be too shocked to see Steve Kerr do those like Jordan Poole for Draymond Green adjustments when the time or the situation calls for it. We saw one tonight, putting Draymond for defense, timeout, putting Poole for offense. It's winning time. It's no more messing around time. And the Warriors, they have a habit of playing with their food. So you can't expect Steph Curry to drop 43 points every game. It's unreasonable. But I do expect that regression to the mean for the Warriors is a benefit right now, because I'd say that Poole and Clay and Draymond too aren't playing up to their standards. They do just play like an average level game. Warriors easily. especially if Steph is still on this roll.
And that brings us to game 5 predictions, right?
Game 5, we're still alive, man. It's not 3-1. The feeling of not being down 3-1 and instead having it be 2-2 home court is just a huge swing.
Except I think Celtic fans and Warriors fans feel probably the exact same way for game 5. Like,
I mean, not with
that, like,
I think right now at this moment, Warriors fans are more relieved that it's 2-2, and Celtics fans are more disappointed. But say going into the series, if you knew it was 2-2,
you take it.
Okay.
And I think we feel the same way, just for our opposite teams, that we feel confident that we can win this game. And so do Celtics fans. I mean, this game, it's not like it's like, oh, this is the momentum shift. Like the Warriors are about to take away, the Celtics are just down. Like they're not going to be able to come back from this. No, it is still anybody's series. I mean,
Totally.
it is. This is one of probably the most fun finals we've had
In recent years. Absolutely. Last year's was great. 2 new teams that we hadn't watched before. But most of those Warriors runs were like, we know what's going to happen. This has been a great series all around, and hopefully we get some close games ahead of us too. Every game has been double figures so far.
and that brings us to game 5 predictions, right?
Yeah, I think you're right, Josh. I think you're right. Well, it's Dubs only. So what's your prediction? We know what your prediction is.
I'm going to go the Warriors win game 5.
No way.
Warriors win game 5. I'm going to say it's a little bit more offensive minded. I'm going to say 120 to 114 with no other.
Then your backwards jersey.
And Steph Curry.
One thing we haven't mentioned is that with this win, we have guaranteed a game 6.
Game 6
I don't want to jinx anything, but if we get a game 6 Clay this year, in the scenario where the Warriors imagine the Warriors close out a championship led by game 6 Clay.
It would be
that would just bring tears to my eyes, after everything that he's been through. And they wouldn't be able to close out a win with game 6 Clay if my prediction doesn't come true, which is Warriors win game 5. Yeah, you heard it here. You heard it from the biased Warriors fan himself.
Warriors are going to win?
Yeah, unbelievable. And I think it's a more convincing win. I think they'll win 113 to 91.
Oh, okay.
I think it's one of those games that the Warriors will have a solid start, but it'll be up in the air. Second quarter, a little bit of room. Maybe they're up by 3 at halftime. And it's like that game 2. I think I'm predicting basically game 2 to happen in game 5.
All right. Okay.
So the Warriors win by 22. And you know what? I could be totally wrong, but I'm not predicting a Celtics win. That's against everything I stand for. That's against everything that Dubs only represents. We're not predicting else. And my MVP of the game will be It's got to be Steph. I mean, going into the series, I thought that, if the Warriors win it, no matter what, Steph's going to be given the finals MVP because of all the media drama and the storylines of how he hasn't had one yet and how he deserves it because of who he is as a player overall all time. He's just played out of his mind.
He's played
we need to end this show with just talking about how Steph deserves so much more. He has dedicated himself to this franchise and turned us around. 3 championships already. 2 wins away from a fourth one, and he's playing the best basketball he ever has at the stage. And tonight was, he had a 47-point game in the finals in 2019 in a loss to the Raptors, but this is his vintage performance. Of his career right now, if you were to show me Stephen Curry vintage playoff performance, this game is absolutely on the list. I think of Game 6 against the Rockets 2019 when he had 30 in the second half and he hit those shots over PJ Tucker. But this is a game that we will remember for Steph, especially if the Warriors win this series. And they're so close. They're so close to that fourth ring. And they can't do it without that guy. So Stephen Curry, when you listen to this, when you wake up tomorrow morning,
just know that we love you.
We love you, Stephen Curry.
If you need anything.
Yeah, if you need your shoes shined, you need a lift to the airport, whatever you need. If you need me to floss your teeth, we're good. So, man, it's going to be a solid weekend of anticipation up until that game. Game's on Monday night. I can't wait.
Monday night game is not my favorite. I'm not gonna lie. Like all the big college football games are Monday night. I think Super Bowl is a Monday night or something like that. I don't know. It just Monday night game is not my favorite, especially when it's a big game.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Dubs are at home. It feels good that we're not down 3-1. And I can't wait. The anticipation is already killing me. It's literally like I want games 5 tomorrow.
Yeah, it could have been Sunday, man. The NBA could have had that NBA revenue, that primetime Sunday night revenue. I guess not. Another ref for Steph and his sprained foot, and his back pain for carrying the team tonight. But we feel good. Warriors feel good. That's it for tonight. We'll be back on Monday night, hopefully after another Warriors win. Fingers crossed. We're feeling good.
Dubs only, baby. Dubs only. Peace.